What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is Monday, October 11th, and we have some Monday night football to talk about. Joining me to do so, the one, the only, actually, you are the one, the only person who's willing to do this twice a week with me, Tyler Sullivan. Sully, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, Will? Yeah, right. One and only. I'm here for you.
Yeah, the one and only person willing to do this twice a week.
I drew the short straw, and it's just this is what it is.
You know, when Sean started doing, because he wasn't always bleep, I guess. We started. He's like, I'll do the podcast. He's like, but I want to do it during my shifts so I can tell them that I'm working. Not. I was like, that's totally fair.
Yeah, and you know what? It just happens that I fall into that today. It's totally fine. You know, hey, it's like a field trip for a school day type of thing. Like you're still kind of doing stuff. You're still kind of in school, but not really.
Worst field trip. By the way, go to youtube.com/pick6 and subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube and you're not subscribing, I will come to your house and press that subscribe button for you. That was not threat. That was like not threatening.
It's a very nice thing to do. I'll do it for you. Don't worry about it.
I'm coming to your house and I will press that subscribe button. Like and comment on the video. And if you're not watching on YouTube, if you're listening on audio, you should know that you can go to YouTube. Again, youtube.com/pick6. Hit the subscribe button and you will get an alert when we go live. We do live shows after every single Monday because Debo wants to kill me. Every single Thursday, Sunday, and Monday night show, we go live on YouTube to recap those primetime games or the week of football. And of course, we will have more live programming coming soon. You better believe when there's a blockbuster trade, we will be doing an emergency podcast. If you're listening on this podcast and not on YouTube right now, and you're wondering at the end of it, where's my DFS talk? That's going to be YouTube only. We had the numbers guys, the metrics guys dig into it, did a deep dive analysis, and it turns out that people may be cutting off the audio for DFS. So we're gonna make that YouTube only.
And more importantly, YouTube just loves DFS. I mean, we're just
it's
giving them what
easier because you can show you can show DraftKings on the thing. And maybe
I mean it is a little bit difficult to listen for us to just go, I think I like this guy, and we're moving the thing around. Like, yeah, no, it's a YouTube product. We'll give the people what they want.
You're not wrong, Sully. Of course, I narrowly missed $1 million again yesterday. Of course, yeah. I did have an entry in the Millie Maker run up into the top 2,500.
Oh, good for you.
Which is, but it needed, you know what it needed was Kadarius Toney not to punch someone in the helmet.
Well,
ejected.
Yeah, you can't rule that out though.
I texted with a source close to Kadarius Toney, actually. After this is true. After the game,
I know.
I said, I was like, "What's Kadarius Toney's Venmo?" Because that dude is, and that source replied and said, "Yeah, I think 189 yards is probably enough out of the road." She's fair. I'll take the L. As you know, it's my fault for playing Keenan Allen over Mike Williams. Yep. Anyway, Colts at Ravens. Ravens -7. The over-under is 46 in this game. Oh, man. Anytime we can get Carson Wentz in a primetime game, it makes my heart sing. Because if he stumbles and struggles, I'll be in a much better mood on Monday night. What do you think about the spread, Sully?
I'm taking the Ravens. I just think that they're kind of clicking right now over these last few weeks. And to Wentz's credit, he is getting healthier. I believe that this is, you know, I don't know if it was the first week that this has happened since he sprained both those ankles, but he practiced fully all week. He has no injury designation going into this game. So there is something to be said for him finally getting healthy after that weird, you know, double sprained ankle situation for him. But ultimately, I just like the situation that the Ravens find themselves here. And I like the matchup with this defense going up against the Colts offense. Carson Wentz this season hasn't done particularly well against the blitz. And this is a Ravens front seven that loves to send guys after them. And when you have a Colts offensive line that ranks 20th in the league in adjusted sack rate, it just screams Wentz going to be kind of running for his life a little bit. We'll see a lot of pressure, and historically, especially this season, hasn't done particularly well. He's only completed like 54% of his passes when blitzed.
Look, I'm not going to sit here and bash Carson Wentz because that's what people expect me to do, but I'm just not going to do it. I will say that the Indianapolis defense while 5th against the run by DVOA, is overall 21st this year.
Yeah.
And Matt Eberflus has done a great job since he got to Indy. I mean, oddly enough, he was hired by Josh McDaniels, who then bailed on the job. Frank Reich kept him, and he's been a fantastic, part of that staff. And he's, the way he runs his Tampa zone and all that, I think that he's made chicken salad out of chicken poo for the most part. Now, they added some pieces to Forrest Buckner and all that, but man, I mean, the defense just is not there this year. And I have a pretty firm belief that at home in prime time, we've seen these spots for Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh. And when they get a wounded animal at home under the lights, they jump all over them. And I think that's what they're going to do here. And I expect some Greg Roman trickeration, deep shots to Hollywood Brown early in the game, being aggressive with this, having some tricks up their sleeve in terms of the run game. And if you can make the Colts one-dimensional and make them be a pass-only team, you will blow them out of the water because they want to run. Frank Reich's a great coach, but he wants to run. He doesn't want to lean on Carson Wentz. If Carson Wentz throws more than 30 times in this game, that means the Ravens won by double digits. And I think both of those things will happen. So I will also take the Ravens. I don't really have an opinion on the total at 46. I think I would go under, but I'm a little worried about the Colts chasing late and or giving up big, long runs to the Ravens as they're sort of grinding out the game.
Yeah, I like the under here too, but it's more of a lean than it's more than just, I love it here. If you look at it from a standpoint of just how we could see this game playing out, yes, you're talking about if all of a sudden the Colts are down big, they start chucking it around the field, things could kind of get a little fluky on us. But what is the thing that both of these teams do well and want to do? Run the football. That's just going to limit opportunities. If they can both do what they are probably game planning to do in this game, is to utilize Jonathan Taylor, utilize the running game for the Ravens backfield, Lamar Jackson, both teams trying to play solid defense. That script, that theory screams under here. And that's really been, and we're talking about a Ravens offense. I think that's probably what scares us the most sometimes, where it's like, okay, Lamar Jackson, primetime, could pop off at any moment, but they're 6-2 the under in their last 8 games, the Ravens. So I mean, they're not like blowing the doors off these teams. They might have, they might win by a solid margin, but it's not like they're lighting up the scoreboard. So to me, and again, this Colts offense, like you were saying too, I think they're the bottom third of the league in DVOA in terms of their offense. So it's just not something that I'm totally confident in for them to kind of scream over this and go into the 50s.
Yeah, and there's a pretty clear sort of statistical, it's very clear when the Ravens have a lead so if you're live betting a game and the Ravens have a lead, Ravens and under, because what they do, they're melting the clock, they're picking up chunk yardage in the run game, and they are. It's sort of like a boa constrictor, basically. When they have that, look, it's all over ball game if Indy gets up, but if the Ravens get up, they're going to melt clock and squeeze you and force you to try and come back in a way that is not comfortable. You can't be a natural offense. You're having to throw a ton and you feel the pressure because your defense can't stop this run game. So if the Ravens get a lead, under and Ravens, more under.
And then when you get in, kind of going back to what I said earlier about Wentz too, like if the Ravens do get out in front, I anticipate that they will, that's forcing Carson Wentz into more throwing situations. And like I said earlier, that means the Ravens are going to send way more pressure. And he hasn't shown us so far this season that he can perform well, or at least, to a point where they can get over here when he's blitzed and when he's under pressure so far. So to me, that, a lot of it has the makings of hitting the under here. Again, could you tell me that this thing goes crazy and both teams start to chuck it around the field? Sure. But if I'm leaning one way or the other, I'm leaning under.
And there are some good prop correlations here too. And we mentioned the DFS as well. Again, we'll get to that you can watch it on YouTube, youtube.com/pick6. But I think 2 props in particular stayed out to me, Sully. If we believe this game goes the way that we think it will, which is Ravens have lead, Ravens run, Colts trying to come back, Carson Wentz in scramble mode. What prop might stand out to you in that sort of particular situation?
Well, if we're going that route,
Why don't you tell me after the break? No one does breaks like me. Really, it's
that's why they pay you the big bucks. That's that big market tease right there.
It's so professional. Tell me, you're halfway through your sentence. Hold on. Tell me after the break. At any rate, I think you're going to tell me that Carson Wentz might be scrambling around, running around for his life, trying to make something happen.
Yep.
He could maybe hit the over on a certain prop, right?
Yep, the over on is 9.5 rushing yards. I love that one. For a couple of different reasons. Obviously, like you said, like there are scenarios where the Ravens are going to send pressure. He's going to be flushed out of the pocket, and he might be forced to just make plays with his feet. But also, I mean, like I said earlier in the pod, he's getting healthier. Again, he was a full participant in practice this week. No injury designation. Those ankles seem to be fine. Whatever you want to call it.
Those ankles.
Those dang ankles. They're either 100%, 80%, 75%.
My ankles.
And so they're getting healthier. And if you look at the beginning of the season, he was rushing for around 20, 30 yards over his first 2 games. So if we're getting a healthy Carson Wentz back, and that is what the Colts want to utilize, as we've seen earlier in this year with them, then he should clearly go over this one. Not only from a could be flushed out of the pocket standpoint, but every so often, Frank Reich and that offense, they might want to utilize those legs.
I'm not sure this is the right number. Yeah. How is this number not double digits? Carson Wentz loves to run. The only way he doesn't run is if he has, 2 sprained ankles. And so I think when you look at Carson Wentz and what he's done, so these props originate because, look, there's 32 teams. It's a ton of games. There's 1 billion players on each team. A lot of times props originate because people are trying to figure out, I don't know how many, what is the average number of rushing yards for Carson Wentz on the season, right? So let's take 23, 37, 0, and 5, and that's 65. We divide by 4. What does that give us? That gives us 16.3. What is this number? This number is wrong. That's what I'm saying. He ran for 23 and 37 rushing yards in his first 2 games. Then he sprained both of his ankles. Ostensibly, he is healthy enough to play in this game on Monday Night Football. This number should be like 15.
Yeah.
Worst case. This is absolutely a bet on the over. I would wager that when this line closes, it is somewhere closer to 15. You could, if you wanted, take the under on Jonathan Taylor there at 56.5 if you believe that this will get out of hand. Again, these are all kind of correlated props. Though the other one I like that I think is kind of a slam dunk too, passing attempts. We'll scroll up a little ways there, Debo. Oh, there we go. Oh, you got it. Attempts, yes. Over 32.5 for Carson Wentz, also juiced heavily. 125 to the over. It falls right in line with the rushing yards.
Yeah.
We are playing this game as if the Ravens have a lead. The Ravens are running the ball downhill. The Colts are at 1-3, very desperate to try to win this game. And we'll keep letting Carson Wentz throw, even if they're short dink and dunk throws to Nyheim Hines. And that's an interesting one, too, from a DFS perspective or from a prop perspective, is if the Ravens have a lead, then Nyheim Hines is going to see way more work than he normally would and may outsnap Jonathan Taylor. If the Colts have a lead, Jonathan Taylor is going to we're not going to see a ton of Nyheim Hines. So keep that on your radar as well. You can do rush attempts. Jonathan Taylor's 12.5. That seems short too. Greg Reich will run more than that, I believe. What else do you like in this game, Sully?
So I'll stick with the quarterbacks here. I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson over on his passing yards prop. And this one's a little bit interesting to me. It's 225.5, right? I have that written down. I believe it was 220.
You're moving lines again, Sully.
I believe it was 228 last night. So this is starting to go down, which concerns me a little bit, but I still like him to go over here because, like we were talking about, Lamar Jackson primetime, they do like to, show out in these type of situations. And the Colts, they're allowing 8.4 yards per pass this year, and that's the 6th highest in the NFL. I mean, you're talking about a quarterback in Lamar who potentially, as we're recording this, we don't know for certain, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about it once we get into the DFS portion. But we don't know what's happening with Rashad Bateman yet. He practiced this week, but we don't know if he's going to actually be playing. But if all of a sudden you're talking about getting another receiver into this offense for Lamar Jackson, you're really starting to, really feel himself in terms of the passing game here. So I do like this situation where he finds himself in with the over on the of his passing yards.
I mean, honestly, if the over-under for both quarterbacks is below 230 yards, don't bet maybe don't bet the over in this game.
Right.
This is not screaming over 46. It can still happen, of course. And you look at Lamar, he's been a lot better in the passing game this year than people are giving him credit for. I think initially 30, 26, 31, 37 attempts in terms of his first 4 games. He's throwing the ball more. He does have, just 4 touchdowns, 3 picks. I feel like people are probably nitpicking that. The Ravens are kind of running him less. Only 14 carries the last 2 weeks for Lamar. That is very low.
And I should also add, Lamar has gone over this number every game he's played this season.
Correct. Yes. Not easily.
Not that necessarily means anything, but it's just, it's not like it's, we're asking him to do something he's never done before.
Well, I mean, they blew out the Broncos. Blew him out. That game wasn't really close. And he went 316 in that game. So they completed less than 60% of his passes. But I mean, he easily eclipsed that 226 mark. So that would not be entirely shocking if he went over that number. This is not a prop slate for us, Sully, because we like our overs. This feels like an under prop slate. Lamar Jackson completions is at 18.5. I think I'll pass on that.
Yeah, that's a stay away from me. I was looking at that a little bit, and it just doesn't feel. He can get, like I'm saying, I like his overs, but he on his passing yards, but he can get that by throwing, not that many passes. Like, what was it last week again? What did he have?
He went 22 or 37 last week.
Oh, okay. So maybe, it's a little bit
different. But I mean, he completed less than 60% of his passes and still got there, but he didn't blow it out of the water. 19, 18, 16, 22. So he's not cruising past that number every single week. Looking at, look again, go to receptions, Devo, if you don't mind, and go to the Ravens. Mark Andrews' reception total is juiced -160 to the under. Marquise Brown's reception total juiced -145 to the under. Sammy Watkins' reception total juiced -125 to the under. The belief here in Vegas, at least based on these Caesars odds, is that the Ravens will have a lead and they will be pounding the ball on the Colts and not throwing it a ton. I would not want to take a ton of overs in this game. I think if one over I would take, though, Latavius Murray rushing yards.
Okay.
50.5.
Yep. This is
not a team with a ton of healthy running backs. They didn't play Tyson Williams last game. Latavius Murray looks, maybe the black is just slimming. I'm not sure, but he looks healthy. He looks explosive. And he should get more than enough work in this game to eclipse 50.5 if the Ravens are dominating on the ground the way that we think they will. Lamar Jackson over 63.5 is probably safe too.
Yeah, that's a big number, but yeah, it's again, you're talking about a guy that he's a different animal in terms of these rushing props. It's not a 9.5 like it's with Carson Wentz.
If the game is a blowout, it will not get there. So I probably won't take that over because he went 7 carries, 28 yards last week. But in the previous 3 weeks, 7 carries, 58 yards, 16 carries, 107 yards, 12 carries, 86 yards. Any other props for you in this game, Sully?
So I'll look quickly. Just the one thing to note about the pass catchers for the Ravens. I do think that it's interesting because obviously a lot of those numbers are trending under, like we were looking at with the receptions and the receiving yards, and they're not jumping up the page. Obviously, that is probably because this game is going to go under. But I do think that there's something to be said, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier. We don't know if Rashad Bateman's going to play. I would expect these numbers to move a little bit if all of a sudden we find out he's not playing. But he practiced this week. It seems like, Harbaugh didn't really tip his hand whether or not he was actually going to be playing in this game or not. So it feels more like a game time decision more than anything else. But if all of a sudden
he's doing that little thing where they expect him to play, but he doesn't want to make it clear that he's playing, and they have a little role for him. I mean, I think they would love to get him acclimated and incorporated with his offense.
Absolutely. And so that's kind of why I think, on top of the game flow that's anticipated, but also you're going to be injecting somebody who they really want to get involved. I think that's why these numbers are kind of leaning towards the under with a lot of these. But I still like, in terms of receiving yards, Debo, the Mark Andrews one, I would still go over with him. I think the Colts are struggling a little bit against tight ends. Last week, Mike Gesicki went off against them. He's still, even if Bateman's in this game, I think that probably impacts, Mark Andrews' touchdown potential. I think it probably impacts Sammy Watkins' participation in the offense, in the passing game. I still don't know if it impacts Andrews in the sense of being somebody over the middle of the field where they can move the ball, in that area. So to me, I still feel safe going in that route. He's one of the most targeted guys for Lamar Jackson. He's gone over this total a decent amount. So to me, I still like that there. If you're still looking for somebody to have a big day offensively for the Ravens in terms of the passing game to go over, it would be Mark Andrews for me.
So on the Andrews front, I think you're right. If you look at Andrews, he's gone 20, 57, 109, 67. So he's gone over that total in his last 3 games. More importantly, though, Andrews over his career has not been someone who's been on the field like a ton. I mean, even in his breakout 2019 season, he played 41% of the offensive snaps. That is not a lot of snaps. His rookie season played 35. So he had 35, 41, 58 last year. But do you know where he's at right now? 74. This guy's playing. He's on the field way more. So in that sense, I'm not sure that this prop number is properly adjusted to Mark Andrews' playing time and playing situation. And as a result, I like the over on that as well. The Ravens, even if they're blowing the Colts out, first of all, if it's a close game, Andrews will be involved in the passing game. Second of all, even if it's a blowout, they're going to have to convert third downs. And Andrews is a third down machine. He's a red zone machine. He will be targeted. And 51.5 is not a ton of yards.
And I'll tell you this really quick, Will, just with Mark Andrews. So I write basically a story breakdown of what we talked about on the podcast a little bit too. And I wrote it last night. And last night, Sunday night, going into Monday, that number for Andrews was at 48.5. So it's already starting to move up a little bit here too. So there is some money kind of driving that number up. So there's something to think about.
Agreed. My wife just texted me. Are you okay? I mean, large sense or small?
I was going to say that is a big question.
You have to work, lady. Let's talk about first touchdown score. I will tell you that for whatever reason, this market, which is my favorite little prop market to dabble in, hit Josh Allen on Sunday Night Football, no big deal. It's shrunk, and for this particular game, I'm not sure that I would dabble in it aggressively, because if you'll scroll down, Devo, you can see Devo scrolling. The lovely Devo scrolling for us here on YouTube, youtube.com/pick6. It is obscenely priced. Oh, I'll stop right there. It is obscenely priced in terms of the Ravens up top. I mean, it's kind of a joke, honestly. These numbers it's kind of a joke in terms of these numbers. Jonathan Taylor plus 625. I get it. He's a running back for the Colts, but I mean, almost like 5-1. Latavius Murray 6.5-1. Lamar Jackson 6.5-1. Mark Andrews 7.5-1. I get all those. Hollywood Brown is sub 10-1. Are you kidding me? Sammy Watkins 11-1. You want me to bet on Sammy Watkins as the first touchdown scorer in a random ass Week 5 NFL game at 11-1? You got to be Zach Pascal. I would bet that 2/3 of the people in your life, Sully, don't know who Zach Pascal is, and he's 15-1. What are we doing? That is ridiculous. Zach Pascal should be 25-1. Men.
Yeah, it's a tough pricing. Again, if I have to go with a Raven, I probably would still, again, if I'm just plainly saying who do I think might score the first touchdown, not looking at value, I think I would still go with Marquise Brown there, just because we've seen this year he's basically almost a touchdown a game type of guy. Lamar Jackson does look to rip it early again with him. He's shown that game breaking ability. So to me, I do like that in just a general sense. The value isn't great. I don't like it from that standpoint. But if I'm talking about who I think has a good chance to get into the end zone, Brown has showed me this season, and really not even this season. If you go back to the tail end of last season too, this is something that's been building a while for him. He's been getting into the end zone. So again, that's somebody who I would like just from that standpoint.
I like the idea of Marquise Brown scoring that first touchdown. I think it's a perfectly reasonable situation.
It's just the price point.
It's just 8.5 to 1 is a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, he's actually having a pretty good season, but I mean, he has 19 catches on the year.
Yeah.
And that's less than 5 per game. You know, and you're banking on him. You're banking on a deep ball, and he could have more. Look, he's an explosive player. They love taking deep shots to him. It certainly makes sense as going up top. Let's send a message. Let's get this lead. Let's lean on the Colts. 8.5 to 1. I can't take that. The only first touchdown scores that I would be willing to take in this game are Colts. And that's because, again, the Ravens are 7-point favorites. There's the assumption that someone from the Ravens will score first. I would actually look at Lamar Jackson at 7 to 1 just because he's gets the ball. They use him in the red zone in the same way a rushing quarterback in prime time. These things hit a lot. You're talking about a guy that they use in the red zone with running the football. I don't hate that, I suppose, but if I'm betting on these, I would look at Nyheim Hines at 18 to 1. Maybe it's a couple of field goals early, dump off to Hines. Frank Reich loves utilizing him out of the backfield in the red zone, and he is very dangerous on the edges getting to the pylon. Zach, I can't do Zach Pascal 15 to 1. Mo Alley Cox 28 to 1.
Okay,
is kind of intriguing. Former basketball player. Not sure if you knew that.
He caught a touchdown last week, I believe, too.
Yes, he did. I believe he had the first touchdown of the game actually against the Dolphins. And then Carson Wentz at 28 to 1.
That's who I like. That's who I think is someone that again makes a lot of sense. We've been talking about his rushing capabilities on this pod already, but again, healthy, someone who wants to run the football, utilize his legs a little bit. To me, that is a good value for somebody like that. You can totally see him getting into the end zone at some point. Again, we've gone over it, but fully healthy. Clearly, we saw earlier in the season, not even just from his days in Philadelphia, but in his time as an Indianapolis Colt, he's running for 20, 30 yards a game when he's healthy. To me, if they get somewhere in the red zone and all of a sudden things, if you do a little RPO or something along those lines, you fake everybody out thinking you're going Jonathan Taylor, you roll out right or roll out left. There you go. You waltz into the end zone. That's one that I could envision seeing happening.
All right, Carson Wentz. As much as we love making fun of him on the podcast, no one loves putting their body at risk more than Carson Wentz, and to prove that he's willing to play with 2 bad ankles on the second team after. Anyway, yeah, Carson Wentz, and he jumped to 29 to 1. Ooh,
there we go. All right, even better for us.
They were square. Anywho, yeah, I like that as well. All right, so if you're listening on audio, that's it. That's the show. If you're watching on YouTube, it's time for some DFS picks. Sully, this is not what you would call the sexiest slate on the planet. No. Oh, look at Debo. Debo, let's look at what's your little logo there. Got no crowns, no money. It's sad.
Empty. Emptied out.
Usually we do my account, but the internet is doing weird things with the internet.
Listen, you've been hitting big on the Million Maker contest. You just don't want to show us that bankroll that's at the top. That's my conspiracy theory of it all.
If my bankroll is big enough where I didn't want to show everybody, believe me, I would show you. Lamar Jackson, of course, the top captain in this spot. 18-9. Hollywood Brown next, 16-5. Carson Wentz, 15-3. Jonathan Taylor, 14-7. Michael Pittman, 13-5. Zach Pascal, 12-3. Latavius Murray, $11,000 Latavius Murray. What a world we live in. Hello, Mark Andrews, 9-9. I know where Sully started his build.
Well, I did on one of them, but let me just bring up this one first. If we're doing, it's with Lamar Jackson. I like to start off with the big names, and then we can start getting a little funky if we want to. But I did Lamar Jackson first and foremost, and this is going to be the lineup that I put in if we hear about Rashard Bateman. If we find out he's playing, he's $200. So you're talking about a lot of roster flexibility.
That is, as they say in the industry, the stone cold mint.
Yes, and it's going to be very chalky for those. You know, once the second you hear that, and
if he's active for $200, there will be a lot of people playing.
Everybody's going to play that just because. But again, you know, just because everybody's playing it doesn't mean you don't want to give yourself that flexibility.
It's worth noting that in Showdown, Lamar Jackson, because of his rushing capability, is also terminology from DFS, slate breaking potential. Like Lamar Jackson can shatter a slate because of what he can do with his legs and his arm. And if you can get Lamar Jackson at captain by virtue of grabbing a $200 rookie receiver who's being activated for the first time this year, then you're not going to be the only one doing that.
Yep. And then, you know, going forward with this lineup, again, that's kind of the two pillars because, again, it creates that flexibility for me to be able to have Lamar Jackson there. I would go Mark Andrews, like we were talking about. You know, he's somebody that I think still has a role in this offense, even if a guy like Bateman comes in this game. Yes, it might hurt maybe his touchdown ceiling, but ultimately I still like what Andrews does. And the only other Raven that we're going to put on this lineup is going to be Latavius Murray. Again, this is going to be a situation where I think the Ravens are going to win this game, and it's going to be an early lead. Then you lean on the run, and then we're going to turn it around with the Colts, have Carson Wentz as our quarterback, and then Nyheim Hines as our final spot in that roster, because we're looking at a team where, listen, they're going to be throwing the ball a little bit more. Jonathan Taylor's kind of been laying to waste because they now are in at some sort of a deficit. Nyheim Hines is in this game. They're going to be chucking it around to him. That's kind of how I envision this game script going out.
So I did a lineup in the, and I'm pointing this out because I'm an idiot. But I had a lineup for Sunday Night Football that was actually really good and contrarian, but I screwed up. I had 5 Bills, one Chief. I, for some reason, didn't. I was in my mind when I built the lineup, it was Chiefs are. I don't know why I thought this, but Chiefs are running the football. Bills trying to come back. I did it the opposite way that it actually played out. I needed to have like Mahomes or Kelsey as that one Chief.
Yep.
But there's a, typically speaking, you don't see a lot of 5-to-1 stacks. This reeks of a 5-to-1 situation where maybe there'll be a lot more of them out there. You know, you've got that group in there. You can go Wentz and Hines. Of course, if you're looking at the comeback, Hines is a perfect 5-to-1 stack.
Yep.
Because he is a receiving back who is going to see his snaps jump when the team is losing and trailing. And if you believe that the Ravens are going to smash the Colts, you could have some sort of combination of Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson, Justin Tucker's a good guy to get in there, to reduce your average salary, and the Ravens defense. And then you basically have Nyheim Hines, your only guy. You can do, if you put Mark, clear that out. If you go Mark Andrews at captain, we're going to have Mark Andrews catch 2 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson, Marquise Brown, Ravens defense. Look how low the Ravens defense, 44. And Devo knows Justin Tucker. I should toss Justin Tucker in there. And look, we then you could do Mr. Hines, who's right below the screen there. You got 2,500 like left over, which is a ton of. Again, in Showdown, it doesn't matter what you spend. You do not need to spend all of your money. You need to have the optimal lineup for how you think this game will go. Debo, so we have 2,500 left over. Can we potentially put Lamar Jackson as captain? X out Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews there. Let's go Lamar at captain.
You miss out by like $500, I think.
All right, let's X out Marquise Brown too. We're going to go Mark Andrews. And then who do we have left to? So then we have to decide, do we want to do Latavius Murray, because it's a bloodbath. So you got 3,100 left over. So that would be that actually makes more sense.
Yeah, this one makes more sense.
And that's sort of my point, Sully, is like leaving 3,100. I'm not like a sharp human. Leaving $3,100 on the table doesn't resonate in my brain. Like I'm like, I can't do that. Like, why would I have Latavius Murray instead of Marquise Brown? Or whatever it is. Like, or like I'll just get Jonathan Taylor, but it doesn't make sense to have Jonathan Taylor in this particular lineup build. So I think those two builds for me, 5-1 Ravens to Colts, where you have you're basically banking on a complete and total blowout, and Carson Wentz dumping the ball off to Nyheim Hines as they try to come back. I don't mind those at all. You could also, if you really want to be unique, you could go 5-1 Colts. But that's probably a bad idea.
I was just going to say, we usually, for some reason, when we do these DFS, we do the weird one, and the weird one's always like weirdly is competitive towards the end. So I'm almost wondering.
It's usually the best lineup. So what would how would you start your weird lineup?
So if we have to, we have to define weird. Weird has to be Colts winning by a blowout. That's
weird is Colts trailing, or Colts winning, and Lamar Jackson having to throw 50 times or something like that.
So do you still make Lamar your captain?
No, Jonathan Taylor's your captain in that
Jonathan
case.
Taylor, okay.
Yeah. I think if you were banking on the Colts blowing out the Ravens, it's because one, Jonathan Taylor's involved in the blowout, first of all, and two, Jonathan Taylor would be the guy that they would feed if they had a lead and were trying to close it out. So I think that's the angle you go. You would also 100% have Carson Wentz in this lineup.
Mm-hmm.
I think you would probably have Michael Pittman. You would also have, dare I say, Colts defense. I don't think the Colts win in a high scoring.
You don't think it? Well, because this game.
Now, at this point, you put Lamar Jackson in there too,
right?
I mean, just to have him in there, unless you think he gets injured or something like that. And then, I know who we go with. Nah, Devo, keep going. Yeah, Devo knows. There he is, Rashad Bateman.
Right, I don't mind it.
So it's a 4-2 stack. Taylor, Wentz, Pittman, Colts defense. Basically, the Colts defense, and there is a path to this. I mean, Darius Butler is an incredible linebacker. Maybe he is. I mean, he is playing tonight, right? I mean, like I didn't miss anything on the injury report, right? I mean, he's all over Mark Andrews, and the Colts decide to, slide safety help over to watch out for Marquise Brown, and the Ravens passing game can't get going. The Colts defense scores an early touchdown. Pick off Lamar, pick 6 of the house. The Ravens get down, and did I see Darius Butler? Darius Leonard is who I meant.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
Yeah, whatever. Again, no sleep for Brinson. And there's a pathway. I might enter this right now before we forget about it. There's a pathway where this is a viable game script, and more importantly, if you're in this contest, there are probably, 150,000 people in this, 200,000 people in this contest, or 200,000 lineups in this contest, not even people. So every time Lamar Jackson does something, if he's your captain, he's probably going to be captained 28%.
Yeah.
Right? 30%. So 30% of the field is getting that 1.5 points, which means, let's say Jonathan Taylor, I would guess Jonathan Taylor is going to be like.
Well, Taylor had a big week last week, so there could be just some people riding that momentum a little bit. Again,
sure.
That's.
Yeah, but I don't think I think it'll be Andrews.
Ravens will be there will be more Ravens selected as captain as there are Colts. Like it's going to.
Oh, actually, you know what? I got ownership numbers.
Okay, cool.
Oh, and these are Cody Main at Establish a Run does these. It's like, I don't know if you've seen him tweet it out. It is scary how close his percentages are to what actually ends up happening. Like he's usually within 1% max in terms of what ends up happening. Lamar Jackson, 31.4 projected ownership for captain in the captain spot. Projected total ownership 92.9.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, if
you're trying to get weird with it, is he even in your lineup?
You would be getting real weird, and if look, hey, Mike Glennon and Nate Peterman played yesterday.
Yeah.
If you had a lineup with Daniel Jones, you didn't win any money. If you had Kadarius Toney, anyway. Hollywood Brown. Oh, so number 2. Oh, you're actually right. Jonathan Taylor is projecting as Cody's number 2 guy, 9.3%.
Okay.
8.7 for Mark Andrews.
But just think about it from that. Look, like you went from 30 to 9, and that was the number 2.
Yes. So to that point, and now I don't feel like we have to rush out of here because this is YouTube only, youtube.com/pixels. But to that point on, if you go anywhere other than Lamar, your competition, the people that you are battling with to move up the standings in this showdown contest is sub 10% more than likely. I don't know if you can. I mean, I will have Lamar captain lineups. Sure. I will not have many of them. Let's say if I enter 10 lineups, which is a lot, but whatever. If I enter 10 lineups, I would guess 2. I mean, maybe 2 will be Lamar. That's 20%, right? Yeah. So maybe 3. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, you either want to be way over. You don't want to be. I might get. Oh God, it's annoying. You either want to be way under or way over the percentage, the field average. You do not want to be right at the field average because you're like if you have 3 of 10 lineups are Lamar, so maybe I'll go either 0 or 5 Lamars. I think Andrews and Jonathan Taylor both profile really well. What
was Taylor's captains on? I'm sorry, not Taylor's. Andrews.
8.7.
8.7. Okay.
Again, these are on establisherun.com. Yep. Highly recommend you check out that website. What are we looking at here, Diva? Diva? I thought Diva had a wild hair. Was going to jam somebody in there. What about Ravens defense? Plug them in for the captain. I don't think that's crazy.
No.
All right, let's do another blowout potential here. Ravens defense, Lamar Jackson, Latavius Murray. This is the Ravens run blowout. Let's also throw in Devontae Freeman. We need to see if Tyson Williams is active.
This is an interesting slate this is an interesting showdown from the standpoint of you kind of have to pay attention. You can't just set this lineup and go, you know what, I'll see a kickoff. You have to pay attention to what's going on because we're talking about a guy in Rashard Bateman who's $200, but we're not going to find out about that until probably right around inactives,
6:30 p.m. or something like that.
And I mean, we're talking about a Ravens team too that we all freaked out. What was it? Was it last week, 2 weeks ago, when Tyson Williams
last week
healthy scratch? We're like, okay,
Tyson Williams is inactive. It's like, well, right, we get it. Jamie made it the start of the week in week 2. Leave him alone.
So we have to pay attention pretty hard at what this is looking like, pretty much all the way to the wire, because it totally changes the construction of some of these lineups. And honestly, it's probably good to have a mix. We're talking about a blend of, Lamar Jackson being the captain and all this stuff. You should probably have a blend of, again, if these guys are active, don't waste your money and just, create a lineup for guys that aren't going to play, but also create a blend of, your lineups where it's the mad dash to create and fill all these guys that are now playing, but also have a kind of safety net one where it's like, all right, almost fade the rush a little bit, where everybody's starting to throw in the starting running back for the Ravens in Bateman. Just kind of go with the more traditional route too.
All right, actually take out Freeman there. I was just looking. So if just looking at the Ravens snaps, I think Latavius Murray is pretty safe. He had 9 carries for 36 yards against the Chiefs in that game where Tyson Williams was a big factor. Tyson Williams was active against the Lions, but Latavius Murray still outsnapped him in terms of carries. 7 carries for Latavius, 5 for Williams, 3 for Freeman. And then last week, man, the Lions have had a rough run, huh? And then last week, Latavius Murray, 18 carries against against the Broncos, 7 for Lamar, 4 for Le'Veon Bell, and 1 for Devontae Freeman. I'll tell you what, Devo, sorry, I'm being a pain in the ass, but X the Ravens out of captain and X Latavius Murray out. I think Latavius Murray is a good captain option. 18 carries against the Broncos in a blowout. Yeah. If you think this is going to be a blowout, when we started this DFS segment, we were like, Latavius Murray, $11,000. I'm not paying that. That's obscene. But if this is a blowout, Latavius Murray, Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, Ravens defense, and the question then becomes, do you go 1 or 2 Colts coming back? You have 7-6 left over. Obviously, as we mentioned before, Hines is going to be in there.
Yep.
So I think Hines gives you the flexibility. I don't know if he's going to get us to Andrew. He'll definitely get us to Wentz. Nope. All right. So again, this is where it's kind of interesting. Do you go with? You can get Michael Pittman in there.
Right. That's who I was looking at. I mean, obviously he's at the top there. So I mean,
Pittman's fine.
We don't have lineups with Pittman in it yet.
Correct. And Michael Pittman's a stud. And if they're trailing, there's a decent chance they're throwing to Pittman, throwing to Hines. So this works from the perspective of what I was going to say. X out Pittman though, and plug in our old friend Le'Veon Bell. I think technically a friend of the podcast, but before. Oh my God, you're leaving $8,000 on the table. That will be a unique lineup.
It will be.
But if the Ravens obliterate the Colts and are running the football a ton and throwing to Mark Andrews, and then Hines is catching balls on the backside. So if I were entering this lineup in the Millie Maker contest, right, $15 to get in, I would enter this lineup, but I would also swap out Bell for Pittman and enter the same lineup. And I realized, you know what I'm saying? That way you're not, if Bell ends up, and again, to your point, Sully, watch whether or not Tyson Williams is active. Because if he's active, then I don't want to play Bell. I want to play Williams. Because I think if he's active, they'll feed Williams late. They are worried about his pass protection and some young player mistakes that he's made, and that's why he's not getting as much run. They're willing to go with these veterans, Latavius, Le'Veon, Devontae, because they don't need the upside. They know that they're not going to make mistakes that cause the team, like they get Lamar Jackson hurt, basically.
I was just going to say they have, that, but also they have their upside in Lamar Jackson too. So
Correct.
It's not like you're losing a ton of explosiveness. I mean, honestly, I think Williams is probably their most explosive running back.
He's their best running back
right.
in terms of if you just hand a guy a ball and let him run, who's going to produce the most yardage? It's probably Williams.
Yeah.
But who understands Latavius Murray? This Ravens running game is very complex. They don't want Lamar Jackson just getting blasted on blitzes. And by having a veteran back there who's good in pass pro, who understands the playbook, it is easier in that sense to accomplish what they want to accomplish.
No, I mean, I totally agree with you there. So, yeah, I mean, again, pay attention to what.
I want to leave $8,000 on the table.
It's a crazy number. But like we're saying, like, we're like, oh my God, I don't know if I want to do that. But at least we're giving ourselves pause. Joey from South Boston is gonna go, nope, gotta max this out.
This guy told me I had a big nose. Is that?
Yeah, that's exactly who it is. He's right over by the L Street Tavern.
Your Duncan segments on Toucher and Rich suck, buddy. Screw you, Joey. I don't say this often, but your dog is ugly. All right. Any other thoughts on DFS for this?
No, I'm excited. It's going to be a fun one. I think this is going to be a good slate for us.
I agree, and I will reiterate what Sully said, that this is a slate where you need to watch the inactives, because if Bateman and Williams are in, then they are. What's Williams' price tag? Oh, $1,200 for Tyson Williams. And as you mentioned, Bateman, $200, $200, the Stone Cold Men. I like this slate. Let's go get rich, Sully.
I like it.
So rich we don't see each other on Thursday.
Listen, that's fine. We'll do a send-off episode. It won't even be these backdrops. It'll just be like we got coconuts and palm trees. We'll just be hanging out.
Breach is like, if Brinson ever wins $1 million, he's not showing up to the, like, you'll know he won $1 million because he doesn't show up at the podcast. I was like, are you nuts? If I win $1 million, I'm coming in like Vince McMahon with like some strutting in to let you know that I won $1 million. Believe me, I'm not going on. I mean, I'll probably limp in, but
it's not going to be like Ben Affleck at the end of Good Will Hunting, where he's knocking on the door, he looks in, nobody's in.
He's like, oh, I'm so happy for my buddy. Like, no. I will if I win $1 million, everyone will know it. Believe me. And I hope the same is true for you, Sully. I hope we both win $1 million tonight.
Great, that'd be fun.
All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you are watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Talk to you on Thursday, Sully.